Alright, 5. Developing geometry. In the end, of the heart of the model, the process of the actual construction of the geometry, all of the measurement, organization, evaluation, documentation would be ineffective unless the geometry, shape, of the makeup of the model are built correctly. Basically, there are two steps of geometry development: creating geometry and positioning geometry. Of course, the other phases of the modeling process are different. The school of thought is how these steps should be accomplished. Each of the model has its own advantages and disadvantages. Factor the need to consider the deciding of the method that include the convenience, building location, the manner, building the geometry origin, in order to leverage previously with the defined measurement of the mathematical calculations done by the object, regulate replications that would be needed in the model, and then the ease of the editing the form of the replication, storage space, the prep of the rendering time, etc. The following are some of the general tips regarding the efficiency development of the geometry BurlaCAD, building the main structure of the previously mentioned and previously a good idea. The structurability of the main object of the model, but this could be the largest piece of the piece, most be essential for the rest of the model. And the piece of the whose location represented the prominent corner or point, much like an assembly line with the automobile manufacturer, building the main frame with the first, provide with the overall model coordinate system for the rest for the smaller secondary parts to reference. Also, the project with the multiple modelers work on a separate piece of the simultaneously starting with the main structure, allow the other piece to build in part with the part in position immediately upon completion. This part is more efficient, but they eliminate with the extra parts with floating around the waiting of the B position to provide the better practice for the amount completion through the project. Alright, know the four modeling levels with their differences with shown in table 4 with the discover the volume 2. All models of BurlaCAD are within the confines of four modeling levels: the primitive level, the combination level, the region level, and the assembly level. Now, the characteristics of the building models. One of the first key to developing effective geometry. The primitive level. The level that one performed with three-dimensional CAD sculpting, working with the primitive the shape that they represent the target geometry and coordinating with the space. Objects at this level are not recognized and have the volume of the material property. The combination level, the level of the optional intermediate level between primitive the regions are an assembly that allow for the building objects to be subtracted, intersected, and all non-primitive objects are stored in combination. Your region level, lowest level of geometry. The level is the lowest level of geometry occupied with the 3D space that can have the material parts of the assembly primitive, the defined positive, the volume of the Boolean logic of the region. Region must, as composed of one material, should be interconnected and should perform the same function. Your assembly level, A or G extension model. These levels support the organized parts for the parts and organized and assembled and into the assembly. This also is where the meaningful names and appropriate hierarchical structures are applied. Alright, 3. Knowing the majority of the primitive of the constraint with any other key with a good modeling, building, and understanding the required input for the ending option with the geometrical character with the relative the advantage, disadvantage of the base package basic building block primitive shape. Although the package currently has more than 20 primary primitives as well, but another dozen on the development and special use primitive, that only a few of these primitives are used on a regular basis. See table 5. This is not to say that, of course, the less common shapes could not be used with some experience that the user can begin with to see geometry in relatively small sets of the primitive to understand the data to reproduce accurate models. Alright, this is an arbitrary convex polyhedron, or your RB8. 8 points, and then it showed the 8 vertexes, 6 faces, 12 edges. Each face must be in plane. Legal variation include the following: arbitration convex polyhedron, 6 points. RAB 6 vertexes, 5 faces, 9 edges. Stored as an arbitrary convex polyhedron, 8 point, where the point 8 is consistent. Conceded points 5 and 7 is conceded when which with point 6. Alright, your sphere, you have the vertical vertex V, radii A, B, and C, stored ellipsoid, and vectors A, B, C, mutual perpendicularly. Right circular cylindrical vertex V, radii A, B, C, D, height vector H, base to top distance stored in the truncated general cone. Vectors A and B have equal lengths, C and D have equal lengths, and all vectors are perpendicular with H. Your torus vertex is the center of the whole normal direction of the plane of the ring. Radius 1, radius from V from the vertex center to the center of the tube, and radius tube, radius of the tube. Or your pipe, outer diameter OD, inner diameter ID, bending radius equivalent to the R1 radius 1 value of the torus. Each of the point contained with the XY coordinates for the inside diameter band with the radius data is equivalently subregion combination of the cylinders bound in which those paths are defined and surface coordinated. Alright, for a list of primary primitives in the shape of the appendix C of the Berlicad, the Tortorial Volume 2 of the control of the ftpral.army.mil/Berlicad for detailed guidance for the UV implied with extruded bitmap primitive of the appendix A and B, C of the volume. Use the best command with the building primitive in addition to the understanding of the pack of the basic building block with the modeling level. It's important to understand the behavior, the advantage, the disadvantage of the basic building tool with the C table, the 6 with the right with the building command with the right text time with the maximum minute building efficiency. Then some cable that take advantage of the data of the previously built with the geometry save with the measurement of the input time. 5. Building objects are the most conventional located. Although the coordinate system of the building, according to the type of the situation, is diverted with the geometry grouping to modeling, where a particular orientation has been established, the building is generally confined in the origin XYZ or 000. When X plus and the positive X-axis is in the front and the positive Y-axis is in the left, the Z-axis is up. For the object with the symmetrical nature of the practice that can be taken with the Berlicad with the monitoring operations can be provided with a similar reference for the dumb of the object with the more with complex composition orientation. Some cases, however, the modeler will find that they make more sense with the building objects in play with the model, but they include the much for the previously created with the object of the conventional reference to number of the object's location, orientation, case, tendencies, other necessary calculation, more difficult to derive the object at the origin. Note that the traditional coordinated specific convention with the sum of the organization with the target description, Elias 1992, Robertson, 1996, Renner 2002. For a turreted vehicle, the origin traditional located with the intersection of the axis of the turret with the rotation ground for the positive XY points with the front of the vehicle, Y axis points to the vehicle's left, and the Z points positive Z points up. The non-turreted vehicle with the axis of the same with the no axis rotation provided with a definite reference point. Some of the origin located with the intersection ground surface and the conventional point along with the left, right, middle plane with the vehicle for a fixed rotating wing aircraft. The axis are the same with the boat with the origin located in the front of the nose of the A-frame C figure 8 and 9. Alright, creates a generic primitive shape of the base on the user screen size. Advantage shape without having input parameter location primitive that usually require the further editing putting in the edit mode graphical user interface. Alright, the MG command may create the generic primitive shape base for the screen size that creates the shape without having input parameter location values. Primitive requires further editing command line. And IN creates a new primitive shape that incorporates the user input parameter value with the location of the creative shape within the specific side of the location without having further edit known command line. The inside creates a primitive shape of the reference could previously created applying with the use of the data provides the negative thickness of the face to make the interior wall, although using the created the shape of the base then specified primitive applying with the thickness without having further edit command line. CP creates a duplicate previously with the defined object, copy the parameters object for the doomed object with the same type of the disadvantage of the previously defined measurement location command line. The CP or copy index that originally created with the model wiring pipe runnings the created with the duplicate cylinder whose base for the vertex is consistent with the top of the original cylinder. They can only be the base of the UV the cylinder taking advantage of the previously defined measurement the location put with the UV the edit mode automatically command line. Or you may create the duplicate primitive shape of the region of the assembly located across the X and Y axis. The advantage of the previously defined measurement of the location can mirror across only one axis at the time of the axis is 0 point command line. Or your pattern creates a rectangular cylindrical pattern primitive shape of the region of the sum of the reference of the previously created object applying with the use of the definite offset parameters. Takes advantage of previously defined measurement. The location requires extra positioning measurement of the graphic user interface or command line. Note the in and inside commands are often used the best way. The create primitive right size location modeler knows parameters. All use the copy and mirror command to create primitive. They can often save time and take advantage of the previously established measurement positioning. Alright, this shows position 6, the coordinated axle of the turreted gun vehicle. Coordinated axle non-turreted ground vehicle. This shows the coordinate axle fixed wing aircraft. Show the coordinate axle rotary wing aircraft. Alright, 6. Build the multiple occurrence for the object most advantage of the manner. Sometimes the builder will make the shape of the object for an example of the management of the model building the box with the identical pencils. Would it inconvenient with the take advantage of the similarities involved with the two basic techniques instructions such collection. First involve the actual replicating geometry. Second involve the reference you can share with the geometry. Regardless of the technique of the modeler, typically start with creating a prototype of the object with the first technique of the illustrated in figure 10. Modeler creates a complete copy of the object with a replicate with each copy of its position within the model. In the second technique of the illustrated in figure 11, reference combination with the containing only with the prototype and create the combination then present repeat position for the within the model. As shown in Table 7, the trade-off with the consider usually each of the approach to the construction effort is one of them. The prototype is consistent with laying object with the layers. The construction replication can be the tedious task of both boxes of pencils. For example, the structure of the pencil would have the duplicated included the wood eraser barrel and lead. The other hand with the reference to the approach for the use is then relative to the minor amount of the work that is needed to create the multiple occurrences. So you have the collection assembly of the regions and combinations. Pencil 1, copy 2, 1, 3, 1, copy 1, 2, and 3. Pencil prototype. Collection assemble region references, reference 1, reference 2, reference 3, pencil prototype. So you had building multiple occurrences through replication, building multiple occurrences from through referencing. Our replications show the no matrices faster prep time for the ray tracing, more offensive effort for the construction loss update relations between occurrences. Referencing is easier to create chain with the prototype, propagate to all occurrences, use the less disk space, creating many occurrences for the complex objects. Do not use the provided the unique object with a required some of the analysis code of the prototype prototype parameters do not reflect the location, orientation, and individual reference. Also, the modeler wants to chain with a make a model chain with all the object sharpening of the point of the pencil, then reference for the approach for the different leveling of the prototype of the object of the depth. Incorporate the chain with all the occurrences automatically reflect the chain. However, the object of the modified with the copy of the prototype was made, and the reference for the item must not refer to the copy. They not supervisingly with the type of the operation performed by the replication approach for the disadvantage over the reapproaching referencing approaching. Referencing also have the advantage it can reduce the amount of the distance space needed with some of the multiple copy of the multiple complex object with the extra space with the need to store each of the next occurring disk consistent with the transformation matrix, the name of the object of the reference combination is significantly smaller with the replication of all the geometry make of the prototype. It shall be noted that, however, because of some of the analysis scope required the unique identifier for the object with the database, some of the agencies require that all the occurrences are replicate with a primitive level without matrix. The same other tool to make the duplication process either, namely the builder's pattern tool to keep the database concat command. The building pattern tool, which is discussed in Appendix E, that can help the modeler automatically generate multiple copies of the geometry, rectangular, square, cylindrical, cylindrical pattern. The keep command can be used to save portion of the geometry in the database concat, or it can be used to call it the consecrated Nate added the geometry reinsert the them in the existing database for the copy. So using a push command or limiting a matrix of the replicated geometry. When the replication technique has been used with the copy of the particular piece of the geometry, the push command is frequently used to walk with the geometry free with the specified top of the perimeter level to collect with the matrix transformation, any transformation, relation, rotation, scale to apply with the new assembly of the matrix edits. The push command apply with the matrix transformation parameter. The primitives eliminate the need for the storing with the matrix. One of the disadvantages of the operation of the local coordinated system used in the construction of the object is lost. Alright, 8. Use the method of exporting and importing pieces of the database. Sometimes the modeler will want to save the portion of the model to be added with another database to be reinsert with the original database. Copy of the pages. Save the first review to add with the new database. Use the crew member or an engine from the database if they're different with the database. The two commonly use the numbers absorb the import of the geometry of the BurlaCAD. Using 1. Keeping the database concatenated commands with a command line using the export import commands over the graphic user interface. The first method is to keep the command export of the data, either with creating a new database file with a pending object with making an existing database form the command line as mgd keep file name .g as the database objects and s. Objects is s. The database concate command is as the contents of the existing database file for the database currently open. Using more import of the database is truly rename such element with the geometry specific prefix. The user will alternately use the S for shape or P for S or P option for the computer generated suffix S or prefix. The form is called command is as follows: mgd database concat negative S or P file name in the prefix. Alright, as mentioned previously earlier with the BurlaCAD object with a unique name have the combined geometry with the more with the database. If they are duplicate names expressed with the modeler, stand with the name of the convention with all of the model. If there are no collisions, the package will automatically add the computer with the generated prefix of the duplicate items. But then you can consecrated geometry. The default prefix name are the form of the A, B, C, A underscore B underscore C underscore such that the note of the prefix will not be added with the domain of the names in the existing combination for the database. This allows the user to edit and remove the geometry independently existing database, preventing unintentional overwriting of existing database items. Another way to move the data to and from the separate database by exporting and importing commands. The MGD graphic user interface located with the file menu of the commands allow the user to either choose the ASC2 binary object that perform the same function of the command line icon when exporting new object with the subject. Select the default of the objects will be current display with the graphic window. In good modeling practice, check with the duplicate name before inserting new geometry into your database. Check with the duplicate DUP command for the command for the command line. The command compared with the external database file object name with the current database file object name and reports the report duplicate names. The form DUP command is a file. MGED duplicated file data G for the database. Note the current G and there's currently no graphic user interface equivalent to the DUP command or duplication command. Now, keeping the bounding primitive as small as compact as possible, although it is probably large primitive to achieve the intersect with the subtract with the shape of the BureauCAD using the large shape of the clear creative of the relatively flat curve of the radar dish that use the bounding of the subtracting primitive to the extent of significantly beyond the outer boundary of the pod of the volume of the breach of the generally not the capital slowdown of the ray tracing application can be made make the wireframe geometry more difficult to view, especially with a complex database. Imagine the user wants to have the shape of the target geometry for the figure 12, but some of the capabilities might want to with the large primitive that already exists for the database. Because of the proper location orientation, because it requires no edit for the user to recognize, however, whenever the object is ran with any raised path through the large bounding primitive will have to do with the extra calculation determining whether or not the raised volume of the region. Therefore, whenever the possible, the smaller, more compact bonding primitive is recommended in Figure 14. So, for the target geometry, in your example, the overlay large bounding primitive is ray must pass through the elevated the unneeded volume. Example of the compact bounding primitive, rays do not have to do that, not have to waste evaluation time on the unneeded volume. Or the hat-space primary example, the overlarge bounding primitive, primitive to cover the extent of the infinite with all the larges are needed. Therefore, whenever the pop of the model should use the arbitrary 8 corners or other primitive that dimension that the model needs. 10. Consider the possibility of articulation, animation, presentation. Sometimes models need to be able to simulate some movements and part of the personal show, but they uniquely view the presentation perfectly. Unfortunately, the modeler, even the user, cannot always predict all possible uses of the outset of the product. Therefore, it is wise, especially organization, to use the different type of model applications to try to design and build models with thought that they may need to articulate and animate present with the different configurations. At some point, the articulation and animation that generally mean with the object of the normal move together component of the helicopter rotor, rate, tank turn, etc. should be grouped in together assembly combination shown in Figure 15. Show the main gun, the commander's hat, the turret gun, the tree structure with the tank turret, assembly, turret armor, main gun, commander's hatch. Example shown in Figure 15 would be create the turret with assembly as with the turret armor, main gun, commander's hatch. Also discuss the lesson 16, the volume for 2, the specialty model of the assembly can be made to simulate the change of the model configuration. Personal, hatch open, closed through compartments, occupied, unoccupied, fuel tanks, half full, empty. Show the views and normally view with the transparent scan of the cross-sectional cutout of such internal components that similarly color the components to show. Subsystem categorization special models usually involve the copy of the original model assembly, alternating the copy to achieve the special effect of the substituting the copy is needed. 11. Understanding the bowling operation properly. The bowling operation play with a vital role for the building of geometry. It's important to build a modular process with a good understanding of them. Shown with the table 4 with the combination BureauCAD database. The record with the store with the bowling operation can be used with one of 3 forms. Primitive shape. The combination intersects the subtract union with primitive shape of the combination does not actually occupy 3D space. Region lowest level of the combination sign with the material property of the geometry occupy the 3D space. The important with the 2 more objects they occupy with some physical shape. Physical space. The following one region can be union into intersected with another region. Wheel cannot occupy the same space of the axle that connects it. Conversely, subtraction will be able to subtraction wall mounted radio from the wall, which hinges the remainder of how the bowling combinations work in Figure 16. And 3, your assembly combination, typical type of combination association, 2 or more regions, other combinations together. This shows the different unions. Surface 1, 2, space, shape 1, 2, 3, and then these different shapes. Combination are created with a variety of the command depending on the user requirement. The commands include the following combination can be created for the combination for the bowling expression in the GIF format. Proceed from the left to the right with the intersection, right, left to right, intersection positive, subtractions, negative, are performed before the unions. U for the example of the command, the combination command union of the A minus the subtraction plus the intersection of C is evaluated as A minus B plus C. Create the combination, you put the parenthetical order of the bowling expression where the no order that indicates the intersection is performed by before subtraction units of the subtraction unit which equal the present of the performed left to right with the crease of the region the shape of the sum of the combination of the use of the bowling expression GIF format, unless the other specifies otherwise. Default of the region inside diameter air code with the light density GIF material value are either assigned. Alright, G is for the grave. The combination automatically unions all specified elements together. This command does not accept the support of the sort of bowling operators for the user. In addition, there are several general recommendation practices when dealing with bowling operation for the follow the start of the positive volume of the modeler must start with the positive volume before the subtraction intersection operations are performed. If you are using the GIF notation, that means that you must start with the union operator. If you are using a fully parenthesized standard notation, that means that you must specify any object before specifying subtraction intersection from it. B. Be mindful in order of the bowling operation modeler should be making sure that the union intersection subtraction are more properly ordered in reagent storage structure achieve the desired effect. For example, the image in the modeler wants to subtract the hole in the region bolted bolt region shown in the figure 17. The region consists of the two unified primitive head shaft shape. The subtraction of the region should most follow the shaft primitive. The alternative, the hole is subtracted with the head. Subtraction will not affect with the head shape. The hole shape does not share any of the volume. So you have the region bolt region union shaft and minus the hole shape and the union head. Region bolt unit shaft, the union head minus the hole shape. Previously the top and properly put them out ordered regions. Alright, note that the BurloCAD reads at 6.0 later with the following parents of size bowling expression are available and from the C command. This will allow the user to designate the operating precedent for the command line based on the standard parenthetical notation operate with the order occurring with the union last methodology previously described functional BurloCAD. Follow the well-standardized convention for this coloring object with display with a complex model with sometimes difficult to use with a visual differentiate one system subsystem component from another. Also, it's not always clear with which of the components belong with a subsystem, system, or subsystem. Therefore, the possible to give with the practice to file with the standard red, green, blue color scheme with commonly with the model analyzed in engine suspension communication, etc. Our table 8 shows the red, green, blue colors traditional with the MGDE out of possible 17 million color combinations between the black and white. The show the commonly used those system assigned with the various ground and air are target descriptions drawn. The graphic display with the background. Alright, 13. Take advantage of the automation modeling tool. The BurloCAD offers the benefit of the tool that can help perform the advanced function of the automatic complex with the tedious aspect of the geometry developed and profit. Example, some of these tools were discovered in Appendix A through F, include the pipe primitive with the automatic building of the wiring, hydraulic lines, project shader, which is the paste of the words and images onto the geometry instead of having to build them. The extruded bitmap, which can turn two-dimensional objects like a building floor into a 3D geometry with walls. The MGEDRC file, which can create the customized shortcuts for MGD operations. The building pattern tool, which can automatically replace the object with a specified pattern, and the building region command, which can automatically build region groups together in similar named objects. Alright, so these are your different color combinations for red, green, blue values. Continued. These have commonly used system color: crew, passenger, tan, fuel system, yellow. Basic like. It's a system. A final word about modeling ease versus modeling precision. Modelers can be tempted to the quickest method of creating a line with the object by using mouse is clicking inside of the object with the shifting control grip of the eyeballing to position them. However, using positioning precision MGD tool to analyzing extrude command with the snap the grid feature of the listing primitive making temporary assemblies is often more efficient. In addition, the user becomes more familiar with the tools and features that becomes easier to use, the more information specific feature of the appropriate online help with the MGD. All right, Chapter 6, Evaluating Geometry.